This series is mainly going to be speaking to women that plan to become pregnant, who are currently pregnant, or who have already had children. There is a proper way to go about restoring the function of our pelvic floor, and it's going to start with how we breathe and connecting our inner core musculature to our pelvic floor. But before we can do that, we really have to establish what is good posture. Good posture will vary from person to person, but what we do want is to have somewhat of a stacked spine. Our pelvic floor, I want you to think about it in terms of a diamond, okay? The top being the front and the bottom being the rear part by our sacrum, and then the two sides, our sits bones. I want you to envision sitting as balanced as you can, and you might have to pull apart the fleshy part of your tush to get that feeling so you can feel those sits bones. I want you to think about sitting equally distributed pressure on all those 4 points. If you're sitting in a chair and you need to be supported with your back, that's totally fine too. Right now I'm sitting on the floor in Indian style because I find that comfortable. So you're just gonna sit there and you're gonna find those 4 points. And then next I want you to think about your spine. Your vertebrae, I want you to think about them being relatively stacked one over the other with a slight curve in your lower back. That's going to extend all the way up, shoulders down and away from your ears. And I want you to envision this string from the top of your head all the way up to the ceiling. And I want you to just sit there for a moment, and I want you to feel how that feels in your body. It might be a little difficult at first, but that's okay. We're here to establish a strong body, and sometimes these things just take a little extra practice. From here, from this more appropriate stance and posture, we're going to begin our breathing sequence through our nose, expanding the diaphragm and lengthening the pelvic floor. That's going to be on our inhale. As we inhale, the rib cage will expand and the pelvic floor will lengthen. On the exhale, it is the exact opposite. Our pelvic floor will rise and our rib cage is actually going to collapse downward, but really what we're using is our transverse abdominis, this musculature here, and the one that wraps from our spine all the way around. We call those our corset muscles, if you will. That's going to be wrapping right around, helping to contract those muscles and deflating the diaphragm as well. I'm going to show you a few breaths so you can see what it looks like in motion. Okay, so as you can see, I'm really drawing out my breath here. I'm really focused on fully lengthening and fully contracting or shortening those muscles on that exhale. Why? I want to make sure that I'm building a mind-muscle connection really, really strongly between my inner core and my pelvic floor. As you progress and you become more comfortable, it doesn't always have to be so dramatic, but in the beginning stages of this type of breathing practice, it is imperative that you learn how to fully connect and contract and squeeze and then fully relax it and lengthen it. Why don't you try a few breaths on your own between 5 and 10 and see how it feels. You can also change position. You can sit in a chair, you can stand, or you could go into a quadruped position where you are on all fours. Any of those methods are appropriate. It's all about what you feel comfortable with.